All right, Mino Gajeb, good morning. I'll be calling the meeting to order at 9:07 a.m. We do not have our spiritual advisor here today, so I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Now, with that, could we have roll call, please?
Jane Drift,
Oma, here.
Terry Gishik. Here. Perry Drift,
Inshama Papaya.
Robert Moyer.
Here.
I know that we have a couple of additions to the meeting agenda. And are there any other ones besides that we know about, the council knows about, Miranda?
I don't have any additions, no.
So we will put the Tara's motion for censorship after Nikki Irvin. And then we will put Perry's motion or action after Tara. Any other additions, deletions to the agenda? If not, I ask for a motion to approve. Is there a motion? Moved by Tara, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is the meeting minutes from May 22nd, 2025. If we want to take a moment or two to look them over. I have some questions from them. Let's go all the way back to the top there. Brian, if you could, the question I have is regarding the speed zones that we talked about at the last meeting.
Yes.
There's a discussion on speed zones on Nut Lake and Vermilion sectors. If you could give us an update.
Well, I'm just waiting from council, a letter from council for to state what was made. And so I could submit both for PD, St. Louis County, and MnDOT for the speed zone changes for official.
Miranda?
Did you submit a letter that needed to be signed by council?
Yeah.
Oh, you submitted a letter?
I asked Nikki, you know, over the minutes so we can get a letter going and signed by the council.
Oh, okay. You don't have the language needed in the letter or
No, I don't.
anything, or who it goes to?
Yeah.
Okay, we probably will need that information.
Okay.
Okay, Brian, before I did discuss with you that a few people were questioning and kind of wanted to give their feedback on the speed limits, and I would request that no signs be put up till we have a little comment period with the people. I haven't gotten anything set up and stuff as of yet right now, but I would like to let the band members speak about the changes and stuff, just to, just to hear from everybody.
Yes, on the Vermilion sector, I believe that's your guys. It's up to you guys, but I'll just go forward with the Boys Fort side, at the public works side.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
One last question is that, do we have a time, is there a timeline for this, to get this done?
Sooner the possible, you know, we'll have the signs up. Sooner I can,
I think that we should put a timeline, not let it go on. So,
and then eventually we'll wait for the Vermilion, you know, what
okay,
the input from Vermilion, so.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And then, the other one too, the questions from the, meeting minutes is regarding the, presentation by, KBFT and how they were, looking at, I just lost it. When we had a discussion on alternative funding sources to address the, Minnesota legacy funding shortfall for, FY 2026, and one thing is for our programs that have grant funding to put that in their grants when they submit for the next year for underwriting, to do underwriting with KBFT, and I think that if we can still pursue that, that'd be great. Also, if some of our businesses like Fortune Bay, the Wilderness, the Y Store, the Lake C Store, our health department, if they could look at doing some type of underwriting announcements with KBFT to help them out, that'd be great. Any questions from council or discussion on meeting minutes? If not, I ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 22nd, 2025. Is there a motion? Moved by Tara, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is the consent agenda. You wanna read them off, Miranda?
So on the consent agenda, letter A, State of Minnesota Joint Powers Agreement to assist in Gooseberry Falls, vote was 3-0. Letter B, State of Minnesota Annual Plan Agreement, MIAC Quarterly Meeting on June 5th, 2025 to pay spiritual advisor and drum group, vote was 3-0. And letter C, appointment of Roxanne Goggleye as alternate on the Board of Directors for Wisdom Steps, the vote was 3-0.
Any questions or discussions on the consent agenda? If no questions or discussions from council, is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Robert, is there a second? Second by Tara, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is Billie Isham. Is she here or is she online?
I'm online.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman Drift and council members. Thank you for allowing me to attend virtually. I apologize, I'm not there in person. I believe you have an email in your packets that I sent to Executive Director Miranda Lilia requesting permission for Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation to use Boys Sports logo and for the agency for the following annual resource, our annual resource guide, which highlights the programs, loans, and loans of the agency, and our tribal consultation documents, as well as our biweekly publication of the Ranger, which highlights successful project partnerships. And we would only use the logo when there's the story of the band, and special events hosted by the agency that includes representation of the band and or projects awarded to the band. And this authorization for the use of the logo as specified above will be in place until it is withdrawn by the band. This would eliminate the need for the agency to annually ask for individual permission use. It would just help streamline the process.
Okay, thank you. Miranda, do we know if there's any, if Jeff sent any, if he sent an email regarding any concerns?
Yes, he did. Let me pull that up. Jeff states, I haven't reviewed anything related to this item. However, I have no concerns about this. I would recommend that whatever approval is authorized is limited to the IRRR annual resource guide that is requested by Billie, so that the authorization is not a blanket one.
Okay. Any further discussions or comments from council? If no comments or discussion from council, is there a motion to approve, Billie Isham, request for, to use the band logo on, IRRR Resources?
Move to approve.
Moved by Tara, as our second.
Second, but clarifying, are we having all three of the things? The biweekly publication and the special events? You said the annual resource guide. Are we just agreeing to that right now and have them come in each time they want? Or are we doing all three of these questions on here? It seems like three different requests, right? All in one. So we're doing a blanket for these three. I'm just making sure. we're not-
So there's the annual resource guide that we publish, and then there's also, when we do our tribal consultations, we also would like to use the logo of the agency and also of the voice for it. We do that with each tribe on our agenda that we use, and also on the affirmation of consultation. It makes it more formal. And then the biweekly publication of the Ranger, when we do a story that highlights any project that we have partnered with Voice Fort, we would like to use the logo along with the story that we partnered with Voice Fort on. And then if we have a special event that has a project of Voice Fort, then we would also like to use the logo. So it's only when there's something that we are highlighting Voice Fort that we would use the logo on.
Okay, yeah, I'm just making sure that we're saying that we're approving just these three and, like Jeff was just making sure that we're, it's just not given unlimited rights to be able to throw our logo out there is all I'm saying. But I'd move to approve those three uses of our logo.
All right, thank you for that, Billy. Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is, Lance Hill with resolution number, 102-2025, new recreational lease-Carol Burr.
My apologies, council. I did get an email from Lance requesting that this item be polled as he is not able to be here today.
Okay, move that one to be polled. Up next is, Jeneal Goggleye with a contract for ArchKey Town and Country for housing roof replacement project.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I have the contract for approval by the tribal council with ArchKey Town and Country. And I had mentioned it at the last meeting, that the low bid had come in for ArchKey, but now I finally have the contract, so that's what I'm needing approved. And it's for 2 homes to be rehabbed in Vermillion on Farm Point, and 3 roofs to be replaced at Farm Point. And the money from this, where the money comes from to pay for this will be the HUD ARPA dollars and the IRRR funding.
And the amount that I'm seeing here is $521,805. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any concerns from accounting on this? No concerns from accounting? Any concerns from and, uh, any concerns from Jeff?
No, Jeff's comments are, I reviewed this contract and provided recommended revisions that were incorporated, including terms required by the funding source. This is good to go for approval and signature from a legal perspective.
Okay. Any questions from council?
How much was IRRB's part in this?
Kim, you're gonna have to help me with this. I didn't bring my figures. Yeah, I should have grabbed that other information.
I don't have the numbers right offhand right now, but I can get it for the next meeting. But there was three pots of money when they were working on the housing rehabs. There was, well, the first one was the HUD ARPA dollars that came through HUD, and that was about 712,000. Then the IRRB had some money for rehabs too. And so I want to say that was a little over 300,000.
Yeah, I think 326 or something.
354, okay. And then there was also an opportunity from Minnesota Housing Finance Agency for called SHORP funding. And we had applied for that and we had gotten money based on income levels of the households and certain units that could be used. So we had a pot, and the hard part is that the IRRB dollars can only be used on the Vermilion sector because of the service areas. And so they've been working through and doing it. So there's still the money there and getting it done. And I know how many did you already finish?
I think, on a side note, I think we as a council, we need to look at approaching the state and have them see if they could move the service area to include all of Boys Fort on this sector here into the service area for future funding ideas and projects. But getting back to your, is that it, Kim?
Yeah, I can get you the spreadsheet. I just don't have it
Okay,
up right now. Okay.
Robert?
No, we're good. I just wanted to just
Mhm.
kind of hear what IRRB and, just recognize them and stuff, in all this and, then what Shane said about including Net Lake, that would be an ultimate awesome idea that hopefully we could actually work on trying to get, put into law or but not with the government. So thank you. And I'll move to approve.
Moved by Robert to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is Kim Greiner with a whole bunch of items here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first two items I have to do is with the BIA Self Governance Annual Funding Agreement. It's actually a multi-year funding agreement. On the title of the funding agreement, it went through 2022. But in the document, the funding agreement carries forward if no new one is proposed. And so we've been making amendments to it as needed at this time. And so the two amendments that I have, the first one is amendment number 7, which is the primary purpose for this is to put it in writing that we're going to be using it for the 25-year fiscal funding. And we only have to get this in writing so that the courts can turn this into the FBI so they can access the TAP program for background checks. FBI is the one who's requesting this document, and then they just send this, and it's the reprogramming request, which is the base funding for the BIA. And so that's a standard thing. So I'm requesting approval of the amendment number 7 and the authorization for Shane as acting chair to sign.
Was there, Jeff, list any concerns with this one?
Jeff's comments are, these amendments are fairly standard. The first extends the funding agreement to fiscal year 2025, and the second incorporates the band's BIA 105L funds into the funding agreement. I discussed these with Kim. No legal concerns.
Okay. Any questions or discussions from council on the amendment number 7 for FY 2022-2022? To retain MFA for FY 2025. If there's no discussions or questions, ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Tara, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Okay, the next amendment is amendment 8 to add the buildings that were not already added to the multi-year funding agreement for the 105Ls. We had negotiated these about a year ago. And we have the signed leases. Now the next step is they have to put them in the agreement. And then there's several steps that they do. So to, based on the last one that we got, it took about 8 more months to get the money here.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of internal steps, but the money still goes retroactive to 2023. It's just getting all the papers in place.
I think there's no concerns from Jeff on this one either.
No, they were the same comments as previous.
Any questions or discussions from council on this one? If not, ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Tara, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next again is Kim with the approval of the FY 2025 budget.
So when I had submitted the agenda deadline, we didn't have the aid to legal aid donation on there. So yesterday I had updated that and sent it. So there's just a slight change, and I sent that to you guys yesterday. I don't know which one is in your packet. But in general, the funding summary for all the programs that request it, well, first of all, the budget is late, but this is the first time since 2019 that we've been able to present the budget to the council for approval due to the backlog of work and staffing, because we were all doing concern, we had so much other stuff that we were working on. Overall, the programs list requested 7,100,000, and it would be 71,537.70 from the tribal government for programs. And then the council met, and then yesterday we added the Indian legal aid request. And so the council is approving 6,648,037.70 for the programs. Accounting is required to reclass eligible 105L fund expenses if the funds arrive in time, and to return the funds to the tribal state aid budget. So that would happen if we get the money timely. And so our two pots of funds that we'll be using would be the Fortune Bay distributions, which we would be receiving 2 million from Fortune Bay, and then our tribal state aid funds between last year and this year of we had the balance would be out of there. So when we're done, we still have 409,482.32 left in tribal state aid for that. So there's some funds if something comes up or starting, to plan for the next year. And then we do have a timeline for 2026. The budget templates have been started to be set up, but everything will be ready for the program and departments on June 16th. In June and July, there's training days. August 4th, the budgets are to be completed by all the programs. August 25, by August 25th, the initial budgets will be presented to the tribal council. And then September 17th would be the final approval of budgets at the council meeting, assuming that it's the second win, that the council meetings that day. So that last date might move a little bit because I never know what other meetings you guys have. Senior management also started working on updating a financial contingency plan to prepare for cuts. We started working on that, and we're going to have some biweekly meetings to talk about possible stuff, but there's a lot of unknowns between the federal government and the state government, and it's going to be a challenge this year because of cuts coming.
With this reclassing of this money, with 105L. And my question is that, I know you explained it before, that once you reclass that money, we're not going to get all of that tribal state aid monies back. And it's going to be a long, lengthy process to reclass that money. And you said if we get it in time, what do you mean by that specifically?
So we're also working on our backlog of audits. And so let's say the timing comes because, and we're working on an audit, and we start an audit and we're in the fiscal year that we were going to do it. We can't do it, once it's audited, you can't reclass funds.
So basically what you're telling me then, out of that tribal state aid monies that we basically should have used for this situation, but we did, now there's a possibility that we're not gonna be able to reclass it to get some of that back now. Is that what I'm hearing?
There's a slight possibility, but we're gonna do, hopefully the BIA moves through quickly. And on the BIA side, quickly is like 6 months. And then we'll be, because they've had a lot of retirements and they've lost a lot of people to cuts, or they haven't been cut yet, but people are retiring and they're not replacing them. And so we are starting on the fiscal year 23 audit in September. So we'll probably be done with 23 and be starting 24 the time it comes. But let's say the BIA takes 1.5 years to move the money, we might be in the 25 budget. But the possibilities, it's possible, but not likely.
Kathy? Thank you. Kim, just have a question for Kim on the tribal state aid. What was that dollar? We just started getting tribal state aid. It was approved by the legislature, and I think they approved it again for following years.
The amount that we had for the tribal state aid was the leftover from the previous year and this year's.
So what's
But-
that dollar amount?
So the money that we had available for this year was 5,057,519. And then like the state legislator hasn't finished their budgets yet either.
Right.
And,
Okay,
Yeah.
the only thing I guess I have a concern about is that I know that we had talked about possibly funding some of the BIA police officer shortfall. Because there was, you know, we fund tribal officers. And so when I was on council, we were talking about using some of those dollars to retain our police coverage through the BIA. And then also looking at delegating some help for leasing. So I was just wondering if those are still on the table.
the BIA law enforcement is in
Okay,
the budget request. There is, other than the normal operating for leasing,
okay,
there isn't, but we're also moving through with, carbon credit projects that may be
Oh,
a
yep.
source of funds for that. And I do have a meeting with they reach out and have a meeting with the carbon credit people tomorrow about, how the funds will flow and when they'll start. So we're getting towards the end of that.
the reason I bring up the leasing is that we know that also the leasing program has only one person and it's a huge job. It is a huge job. And I know that we had Levi Brown come in and do an assessment of our leasing program, and I just wonder where that's at. That was done way last, I don't know, November, October. Did we ever do anything with the leasing assessment that Levi did? What it was is to look at areas where they may need help or staffing or software or something just to help the program, because that is a huge program for us.
Yes, it is. If we can schedule an update from, I think it was with Lance and at the next meeting to provide an update on that and where it's at, that'd be great.
Thank you. That's all I had.
The other thing too is that, you know, with all these funding cuts that are coming down, and especially, the last I heard from our lobbyists is that it was recommended that CFA was going to be cut by 10%. And I myself asked for an update from our lobbyists regarding the state side and what they did with their budgets. And I know that they're still trying to finalize their budget. They're still making the cuts, and that they're trying to head off I think it's a $5 billion deficit or whatever that in 2028. And they're asking the state programs to try to cut that amount by half this year. And I brought this up at MIAC. I said, what happens if you can't meet that? How much you have to do it next year? And what does that look like for the tribes across the board? And with this, getting back to the CFA funding, that's the money that we rely on to make the loan payments for that 28,000 acres that the tribe bought a few years back. And I think we have the money to cover the shortfall if need be, correct?
Yeah, you had stopped in and, this year for the 2020, because we already made the payment for fiscal year 25. So the 26 payment is in November. And so that's the year that we might, have some shortfall, but we had three options. Or there's the line of credit. When we bought the land, the Indian, land, I wanted to make sure I said it right. Set up a line of credit because there might have been a timing issue. The second one is that we get room tax from Fortune Bay that we've always set aside for land, that we've saved for land purchases. And then the third option is we didn't know about the timing of the carbon credit payments, because that was going to be the other part of the payments on the land when you guys entered into the whole project. So there's a lot of moving parts yet.
I think for the carbon credit, the last time I talked to the people that run that program, they were looking at 2000, either at the end of 2026 or the beginning of 2027 to start that program.
Yeah, so like our payments due in the 25 would be the 26th, and so there's some timing. And when I had talked to them at the State of the Band, they said that there's options for advance payments too. And I think that's maybe because they reached out to me for a meeting to start talking about setting up the payment plan and how that all works. So we're getting close. So it's the 1 year. I think we're kind of have the options to look at, and then the carbon credits will start to flow and you'll have the money to make the payments.
Okay, thank you. Donna?
Good morning, Donna Hoffer, Boys Fort band member. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My question is, Kim mentioned 2023 audit will be done possibly this fall. Is 2022 completed? And if so, when was that completed?
2022, they're getting us the draft this week. We were supposed to have the draft last week. They attended a continuing education class the week before and decided that they needed to include 2 new financial statements in the audit. And so they're compiling those to put in, and then the new one will be issued next week.
Just a comment, I guess. I think it's important that we keep, I guess, informed about the audit. I know we're significantly behind, and I know we blamed I know that COVID was part of it because we're so far behind. I think it's important to the band members and to the tribal government that we have the audits completed and on time. That's one comment. And then we heard a lot of information here about loans and tax credit and extra. I think it would be nice if the band members, and like my letter said last week, requesting a public meeting for, the enterprises, Boys Fort and et cetera. I think it'd be nice to also include like where we sit financially as a tribe, and how we're addressing the needs on the reservation, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Those audits need to be done, and I as soon as we can get them done, the better, especially for our Boys and Girls Club, because I know that they are waiting on those audits. I do see we have Chris Holm with his hand up.
Hi, Council. Chris here. Just circling back to the carbon banking project, just to confirm, there are 2 main items left that we need to get done that we're very close. So we're very close to being able to submit the program proposal to VIII, the agency that verifies and approves the carbon banking thing. One of those items is, as Kim mentioned, the financial model, and the financial modeling people, as you said, are going to be talking to us tomorrow to start that process. And there are some final tweaks that need to be done to the forest management plan, and that is near completion. So we do think we'll be able to submit this thing, in 2025, actually early. So with any luck, we'll get that turned in early. And if Vera does not have any issues and send it back for editing or anything like that, I'm anticipating we can be going on this early in 2026.
Oh, we're supposed to, you need to do a motion on the budget.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions or discussions from council? If no further questions or discussions from council, is there a motion to approve the FY 2025 budget? Moved by Tara, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is Kim with the employee reimbursement policy.
Yeah, we needed to update our policies and procedures for employee reimbursement. And we're moving it because there was a lot of confusion about people if they needed purchase order or not. So we're moving it to under the position that processes travel. There is a form to do it. So there's a written policy of what's allowed to be reimbursed through it. And then the second thing it does is it says it has to be, there's no purchase order required. It will be processed in the same manner as travel. And then and then there's a 30-day window, and it'll be direct deposited into employees' accounts, such as travel it currently is. And it's just for it's not like to avoid the procurement procedures or anything. There's sometimes there's just stuff that you have to pick up. And that, so it's just actually written formal policy, and it also plays into the workflows with the new software.
Was there any concerns from Jeff on this?
Jeff's comments are, I reviewed and recommended edits for this policy, which were incorporated. No legal concerns. I have one question, Kim. Was this provided to employees or senior management to provide feedback on? No.
Any concerns from Dan Rabideau? Just kidding. Any questions or discussions from council on this? If no questions or discussions from council, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Tara. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is Nikki Irving with cash handling policy for RTC events for ceremonial contributors. You got the floor.
All right, so I just have before you is a policy for our RTC events such as, State of the Band, veterans, dinner, stuff like that. To allow us to pay the drum groups and the spiritual advisor in cash at those events, because most of the time it's the drum groups. They may add people or remove people from the drum that day. And it's just, as far as who would do it, what we would do is either executive director or executive assistants would request the check in their name. We would keep track of the cash, disperse it, and track it in our form that's attached. Executive director may also appoint individuals in case, we're unavailable for that particular event. But that would be totally up to her. And most of the events we're at, but just in case.
Reading through the policy, and it talks about under compliance and review. This policy should be reviewed periodically to ensure it remains effective and secure. Event organizers or cash handlers must enforce compliance and adjust procedures as needed. Who's going to review it?
We will, as we're going through it and we see if we need to add anything, to the policy, we can do that.
Okay. And was there any concerns from Jeff on this? No. Any concerns from accounting? No concerns. Any questions or comments from council?
Just want to make sure that you keep an eye on, how the procedure was done before when a check was cut to the drum keeper, that kind of stuff. That we don't have a huge influx of of drummers coming now, you know? I mean, it might be an incentive. Oh, I get cash now instead of a check, because I see that you have 12 spaces for singers, you know, along with the drum keeper, so.
And that was just to show you what we could do, but we could put it, you know, drum keeper, singer, and then spiritual advisor.
Right.
So I mean, it
Yep.
doesn't necessarily mean that we have that many.
Yep, and I just want to make sure that that's, you know, that we don't get a whole influx of, which is good participation, you know? But I just want to make sure that that the budget doesn't go from, you know, this average amount to a really high amount, so.
Right.
That we can't sustain. That's all I'm a little bit, worried about, so that you can just keep an eye on that. Miigwech.
Any other questions or discussions from council? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Moved by Terry, so second.
Second.
Second by Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Up next is, Tara with the, uh,
2 minutes.
the Secretary Treasurer asked for a break, so we will take a break for a couple of minutes. We will reconvene at 9:55 or 9:56. Thank you. All right, meeting is, back in session at 9:57. Up next is Tara with the, censor.
Okay, here we go. This motion to censure. Motion to formally censure RTC District 1 Representative Perry Drift for the following actions. On May 22nd, 2025, during a public RTC meeting, District 1 Representative Perry Drift engaged in disruptive and dereliction of duties by raising his voice and interrupting presenters, all causing a threatening and intimidating environment for council members, staff, and band members attending the meeting. Number 2, on May 27th, 2025, during an informal meeting with the RTC and in response to RTC Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik informing him that she planned to bring a second censure motion for his conduct during the RTC meeting, District 1 Representative Perry Drift raised his voice and made badgering and insulting comments to RTC Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik, restricting her from speaking and creating a threatening and hostile work environment. These actions have further eroded public trust in the Tribal Council, damaging the reputation of the Tribal Council and the Voice Fort band, undermined tribal traditions and values, and inflicted fear among Voice Fort staff and elected leaders. Through this censure, the RTC requests that District 1 Representative Perry Drift, number 1, not leave meetings, stay on task, and control his conduct so that the council can conduct business. Number 2, issue a public apology for his behavior at the May 22nd, 2025 RTC meeting. And number 3, issue an apology at the next RTC update meeting to Secretary Treasurer Tara Gizik, fellow RTC members, and Voice Fort staff. The censure shall be posted in public places on the Voice Fort Reservation and on the tribal government's official social media outlets. End.
Any questions, discussions, or comments from council? If no questions, or discussions, or comments from council, is there a motion to approve the censure?
Move to approve.
Moved by Robert, is there a second?
Made the motion. I made the motion and he
Oh,
seconded.
hold on, we'll back up here. Let's back up the train here. Motion by Tara, second by Robert, correct?
Correct.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Opposed.
Oh, hold on. Opposed?
Correct.
Okay, silent, motion. Motion carried. Up next is Perry.
All right. So I have roughly a 15-page document citing ethical violations and potential Article X violation against a sitting member of the RTC one of the members here. I don't want to go into detail of who or why, the who's, where's, why's, and how's of this complaint. But I would like to forward these documents to Shane Drift, who sits on the TEC, so that he can forward my documents to the TEC and so they can hear out my area of concerns. So with that, Jeff, our legal, isn't here. Normally, I would ask him to see what I can disclose and what I can't disclose, but at this time, there is some data privacy topics in here, so I don't want to I don't want to read or disclose what's in this document, but I would at this time just like to pass these documents off to Shane Drift, acting chair. And with that, that's all that I have.
Okay. All right, there's a motion to adjourn at 10:02. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just for the audience's information, I believe, Perry, you're asking Shane to bring those to the TEC, correct? The documents you presented?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Being the former president of the MCT, what'll happen is Shane will bring the documents to President Mike LaRock for presentation. And I'm wondering, there is a process for dealing with tribal leaders that are on the TEC. There is a censorship process as well as here. It's similar. And so that would be probably a possibility that would be what would be done, because that's all the TEC can do. The TEC can only censure, similar to what the council is doing. It'll be a slap on the hand if the TEC finds those documents to be legit and specific under Article 10 of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution. It has to be very specific. And so what'll happen then is the TEC will have their hearings and all that kind of stuff like you guys do, and then they will make a determination. Once that determination is made, let's say it's censorship, because that's all they can do. If it's censorship, then what happens is it's a slap on the hand, similar to what happens here. Nobody is removed or anything, but it is sent back to the tribe to deal with. The TEC does not get involved in individual tribal matters, but they can do a censure, but they cannot do anything after that. It comes back to the tribe to deal with. Because I know, being on the TEC, that the TEC does not want to get involved in tribal, specific tribal matters. That's up to the reservations themselves. So I just wanted to explain that. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there a motion to adjourn at 10:05?
May I ask, where you're gonna bring those to MCT? Who are you bringing those documents to? Who are you bringing them to?
I will be calling Luke Warren Schultz, the executive director of the MCT, talking with him, getting clarification on what process, or who do I need to bring them exactly to, if I can bring them to him, or if I need to take them to Mike LaRock, the president.
And we do know that Mike is Perry's uncle too, so if there's a conflict of interest in that, I would hope you'd look into it.
Yes, I will raise that question. Thank you.
I'll move to adjourn if we're good.
Motion by Robert to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tara. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. We will take a, we